My entitled husband went behind my back and spent over $160,000 investing our money in baseball cards. And now that the truth has come out, I'm in the process of trying to get my money back that he spent on these cards. And as a result, he is absolutely losing his mind on me, saying that I have no right to try and get my money back, and that if I keep trying to do this, he's going to divorce me, sell our house, and dissolve our business. And at this point, based on the way he's acting, I seriously am at a crossroads and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband spent $160,000 investing in baseball cards without telling me. During the same time, he would get mad at me for spending money on meal plans or salon services, and I would get yelled at for my disrespectful spending and my financial goals not aligning with his, or at least so he'd say. And he did most of this spending on his personal credit card that he paid for with our joint bank account. For a long time, I didn't have access to our online banking, so I didn't see the amounts he was paying in his credit card. But whenever I would question a $2 payment or a $4,000 payment, he would always have some kind of excuse, and usually say it was for the family or from the grocery store. And he would also refuse to show me any of his statements. Well, one day, driving to lunch, he mentioned how my friends owed him for the concert tickets that I had used his card to buy, and so I agreed to get the money from them. In mentioning the card though, I remember just seeing another $4,000 payment come out of our joint bank account. Now this was after about 2 months ago when he promised that he had a $2,000 balance and was going to pay it off and stop using it. So I said to him, I thought it was going to be paid off in a couple of months. And honestly, that's all that it took. He launched into me about how I ruin everything, how we just can't enjoy the day, and this is why my relationships never work out. He just went on and on, eventually dropping me back off at our house and then just left. It was this outburst that made me realize there was more going on. After lots of back and forth and digging, and finally getting him to give me access to his credit card statements, I added up nearly $160,000 in 3 years that he had spent. I already realized the financial sketchiness that has taken place on many levels, and there is so much that I'm just not including, but during all of this time, my husband met with a divorce lawyer and then begged me for another chance, and that was about a year ago. We are still together, but as you can imagine, the financial issues are one of the many issues that we have. At the time, I realized what he had spent and that I was so ill-prepared for a divorce that I started transferring money from our joint account to my personal every single month. My goal over time is to take back my half, which would be about $80,000, and invest it how I want to invest it. Now, he was, of course, really mad, but I basically said, oh well, he should have considered me when he spent it, and I was only correcting his wrong. Recently, he made sure the money wasn't in the account when my transfer was scheduled. He did this 2 months in a row and said that I could no longer do this. I waited for money to be there and then I did the transfer anyways. And when I did that, he went nuts. He was telling me that I'm a rat, that he's gonna sell the house and dissolve our business. He says that it's wrong for me to try and get even and that I should just let it go. Now, the money is just sitting in my account as I have not spent any of it. So honestly, am I the jerk for trying to take my money back over time? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this guy is insane if he thinks this is okay in some kind of way. For reference, according to the original poster, there are literally baseball cards everywhere. They're organized in sleeves and boxes, and they are also PSA graded, which basically means they're in really good condition in like a plastic container more or less. And like, I can understand that as like a side hobby, but to literally spend over $100,000 on that hobby, in my opinion, is insane. That's like an insane level of money that he's spending on baseball cards of all things. And worst of all, he's paying it off with your joint bank account. Like seriously, how is that fair at all? Half of that money is 100% yours. So for him to freak out when you're trying to like return the favor and be like, no, I'm getting my money back, that in my opinion is so hypocritical that it really is a massive red flag. So hopefully this can work out for you in some kind of way, because what you're describing sounds really sketchy, and in my opinion, your husband is 100% in the wrong. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to allow my mom and her family to live in my cabin that I'm going to receive when I'm 18? Because right now she's really upset with me, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my dad bought a cabin before he married my mom, and it became a family place for us when he married my mom and they had me. Now, as a point of note, when he wrote his will, he left the cabin to me and not my mom. But my mom helps look after it in the meantime, but full ownership goes to me when I turn 18 18. Well, my dad passed away when I was 7 years old, and my mom remarried when I was 10. And my mom has 2 kids with her current husband. When my mom got engaged and found out that she was pregnant, she asked me if I would be okay with the cabin remaining for the family and including her husband and the new baby. She wanted to keep it as the family vacation spot, but said if I would turn around once I owned it completely and say that I didn't want her husband and new kids to be there, then she wasn't going to ruin any memories for them or cause them some heartache by bringing them, knowing they would no longer be able to go in a few years. I told her I wouldn't want to use it and I wouldn't let it be used by her new family, but she told me they were our family and not hers. She saw I still didn't want to let it be for them as well, so she never took them there at all. Before Christmas, my mom let her sister-in-law and family stay in the cabin because they lost their house. Ever since then, my half-sister has been asking me questions about it and wondering why she never goes there. Well, my mom told her that it was mine, and she looked after it for me until I was an adult, and she wanted the family to be safe. So then my half-sister is asking when we're all gonna go there, and why don't we ever try to stay there, and how she wants to see it really badly. My mom asked me if I had changed my mind yet, and I said no. So my mom was trying to make my half-sister less upset about it, but she would ask questions once a week about the cabin and say that she wanted to visit. Well, this really upset my mom's husband, who said it was ridiculous that a cabin was owned by the family and that they just couldn't use it. Now, he said this around me once, and I told him it's not owned by the family, it's owned by me. My mom is now blaming me, saying it put everyone in a bad position because her in-laws stayed there, but she can't bring the kids. I told her that it wasn't my fault, that she was the one who offered the cabin all by herself and I had no say in it. She told me it was the right thing to do, and the right thing to do now would be to accept that my family has changed and to let them all enjoy the cabin. I told her I can't stop her for the next 2 years, but it's not going to be used once I take full control. My mom and her husband both told me that wasn't the correct way to behave. They said I made my half-sister upset by letting her aunt, uncle, and cousin stay there. But yet again, I told my mom that she let them stay, not me, and she needs to own it instead of blaming me. They were mad that it implied that I would have refused to let them stay and that I don't see how my actions are the root problem in everything. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, in my opinion, I don't think that you're the jerk. Here's the thing, that cabin is going to you when you turn 18. And since they're 16 years old, they have 2 years left for their mom to basically do whatever they want with it. And from the sounds of it, it really seems like your mom and your mom's husband are just trying to guilt trip you into giving into what they want. I mean, they're literally using your half-sibling as like some kind of like guilt tripping maneuver just so they can be like, wow, you're upsetting her for not allowing anybody to be there. How could you do that? But it's like, what are you talking about? She's the one that offered her in-laws a place to stay at that cabin. The original poster didn't do that. So for her to turn around and be like, wow, you did all of this. How could you do that? Like seriously, that is so manipulative and it's just so wrong. So in my opinion, this is your cabin in 2 years. And your mom is overstepping by trying to make it sound like this is some dire situation. Because if she really wanted to bring her kids over to that cabin before he turns 18, which by the way, again is in 2 years, then she easily could do that. She could take everybody over there and have at least 2 vacations and do whatever you want. So for her to be like, oh yeah, you're never letting us over there, I can't believe it, that's just super toxic, and in my opinion, I would just completely ignore that. Am I the jerk for calling my brother a hypocrite, all because he's refusing to come to my wedding since I made it child-free? Because right now he is very upset, and at this point, I don't know what to do. So I am due to get married to my partner this summer. I'm a 27-year-old female, and my partner is 28 years old. This whole situation is about my brother, who we will call Josh. Josh is not his real name. He is refusing to come to my wedding, and I think he's being unreasonable and very childish. For a bit of context, our wedding is going to be child-free, with no kids under the age of 13. The youngest guest will be around the age of 12 to 13 years old at the time of the wedding. My partner and I don't hate children, and we had multiple reasons for having a wedding this way. Me personally, I think that weddings are mostly boring. They're unenjoyable experiences from the point of view of small children, so it's hardly surprising that they will act up. Josh has a set of twins that are 5 years old, and he has made many comments that we are selfish for having a child-free wedding, and that if we weren't inviting his kids, he is not going. Now, I can understand his perspective, but I think he's not making any effort to understand ours. When Josh got married 7 years ago, he and his wife also had a child-free wedding. Last weekend, we attended a family party, and some family members brought up the topic of my upcoming wedding. Josh scoffed the whole time and made a comment that he wouldn't know about it because he's excluded from it. His comments caused short, awkward silences, but honestly, nobody responded to them. Later, when I was talking to Josh alone, I told him he is still still invited to the wedding, and he and his wife can go or not. Those are his options, and him making snide comments aren't going to change the plans. He said that I'm alienating his children, and that they will be sad about this when they're older, and that they would love to be flower girls. But I just straight up called him a hypocrite, and told him to grow up and that this was the end of the conversation. Our parents are now getting involved, and my dad told me that he and my stepmom will not be at the wedding if Josh isn't. Now, I'm not close with him for unrelated reasons, and our relationship is rocky at best, so I told him that is completely up to him. My mom is asking me to just make an exception for Josh's kids, and she said that I'm acting like a narcissist, and that we all have to make compromises sometimes. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Honestly, it is completely hypocritical for him to have a child-free wedding and then complain about you doing the same thing. Like seriously, this is so weird. He's sitting there acting like, wow, you're excluding me from coming to your wedding. But it's like, no, you're not. You could just get a babysitter for your kids and then you can show up for a few hours. Like this really is not that complicated. And it's not like you're only excluding his twins. You are literally excluding anybody who is a kid. And personally, from my perspective, that makes complete sense. Like I don't see anything wrong with saying, yeah, I don't want any kids at my wedding, and I just want this to be people that are old enough to appreciate it. Because here's the thing, kids make noise and they can be distracting. Even the best behaved kids are gonna do something that might take away from the ceremony. And in my opinion, I think there's nothing wrong with saying, yes, I want to have a child-free wedding. So if your brother wants to act like a weirdo, as well as your extended family being like, wow, if Josh can't go, then we're not gonna go, then honestly, that is completely on them. And in my opinion, I don't think you've done anything wrong. Am I the jerk for getting mad at a girl who is spreading a rumor around my school that I'm faking having Tourette's? Because after I confronted her and told her that I need her to stop talking about me like that, I was the one that ended up getting in trouble. And now I'm seriously frustrated and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, I'm a 16-year-old male and I suffer from Tourette syndrome, which I was diagnosed with when I was around 11 years old. I say suffer because in my experience, it has been horrible. It affects daily aspects of my life, and it isn't something that I joke about. The other day, while I was in the library, this girl who's an 18-year-old senior came up to me and we started chatting. I'll call her Amy for the sake of the story, and Amy tells me that she heard through the grapevine that I was going around telling people that I have Tourette's when I don't. Now, for some background on Amy, Amy is friends with this girl that I used to be relatively close with. We'll call her Lily. Lily's not her real name. And Lily knows for a fact that I do have Tourette's. She used to come to my house often and only found out because she heard my mom asking me if my new meds were helping with all of my tics. I thought Lily was my friend, so I explained to her that I was diagnosed as a child and it's something that I struggle with a lot. She seemed okay with that answer and didn't bring it up again. Lily and I had a falling out around a year ago and we haven't spoken since. Well, I got upset at Amy and I asked her who told her that I had it in the first place, even though I kind of already knew it was Lily. But when I said that, she quickly tried to change the subject. Now, being extremely bothered by the fact that my diagnosis is being spoken about in conversations that don't include me, I decided to get onto her about it. I told Amy that if she thought I was faking, I could show her my diagnosis papers and records of all the tests they did on me as a kid to reach the conclusion that yes, I have Tourette's. She said I was getting defensive and rude and that I shouldn't shoot the messenger. Well, the next day, Amy's brother, who's in my math class, told me that his sister is still going around telling people that I'm faking Tourette's. He knows that Amy is a liar and just likes to look for attention, with him also telling me that this isn't the first time she's done something like this. I went up to Amy that day at lunch and I said to her, if you don't keep my name out of your mouth, we're going to have a serious problem. I don't need you talking about my medical history with complete strangers. If I hear that you keep spreading this garbage again, I'm going to get the deans involved. Well, this conversation apparently made her cry during the next period and have what she described as a bullying-induced autistic meltdown. So I got called to the counselor's office, and when I explained what happened, the counselor said I wasn't being tolerant enough and that if I didn't apologize to Amy, I would get written up and my mom would be called. So I went ahead and I apologized to Amy, but I told my mom exactly what happened. She said that I was not in the wrong and that Amy should have been the one to get punished. And while I agree with her, the school staff seems to think that I'm in the wrong and that I'm the bully. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not the jerk. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. In fact, if that was me, I would have made a much bigger scene than what you did. I think you did it the nice way, and I can think of a lot of different ways to try and make this a lot more unpleasant for Amy. Because she's literally doing exactly what her brother described. She's literally just trying to cause problems problems in your life all because she wants attention. And that is seriously obnoxious. Like, who in their right mind would go up to someone and be like, you're faking Tourette's, you don't actually have it. Like, that is so unbelievably toxic. Like, that goes well beyond any kind of like schoolyard bullying. That is like a violation of privacy, and that is not okay. Also, your friend Lily is a piece of garbage. Here you have someone you thought you could open up to, just for her to use it against you when you two have a falling out. Like, she seriously is a massive piece of garbage. So personally, if they want to play this whole, oh, you gotta be more tolerant game, then in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would escalate this even further. I would personally try to get my parents involved and try and have them escalate this as far as possible, because what you did is not bullying. You literally stood up for yourself regardless what the staff says. Because Amy is 100% in the wrong. She is spreading false rumors about you and disparaging your character literally for no reason. That is unacceptable, and in my opinion, you have every right to defend your good name. My entitled aunt made an awful assumption that I had spent my inheritance foolishly on a vacation to Hawaii, and I've honestly never been more blown away by someone's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I just remembered this and I thought I would share this online. This happened in 2004 during the height of the airline fare wars. I was 41 years old and my boyfriend was 44 at the time. In January of that year, my boyfriend called me at work. He had found a round-trip non-stop ticket to Hawaii for $99 each, and he could book it for the first week in June. I checked with my boss and all he said was to bring back some souvenirs. So we decided to book the flight. It was up to me to get the hotels and to set up any fun stuff that we wanted to do. Now, I had told my mother, who was very excited for me, as I had never been on a real vacation. My mother was in the end stages of colon cancer, although I did not know this at the time, and I was worried, what if something happened while we were gone? Well, we let her sister know about the trip when my mom went to stay with her during her final days, and she was completely fine with it. Well, my mom passed away in April, and being the only child, I got a sizable inheritance. It wasn't life-changing or anything like that, but it was enough for me to upgrade a few things that we had planned to do. Her middle sister was happy we were still going and said that it's what my mom would have wanted. Well, enter the youngest sister. I don't remember when she found out or who told her, but it was after the funeral. And that sister went ballistic. She said she thought it was strange that all of a sudden we decided to go to Hawaii on my inheritance and basically accused me of blowing through my mother's money. I told her that we had been planning this trip since January, long before my mom passed away, and I didn't really spend very much on the fun stuff. She still thought that we should cancel our trip out of respect, and when we didn't, she badmouthed me to the rest of the family. And what was the fallout to that, you might be asking? Well, everyone, including her husband, basically told her to get over herself. And I'm honestly still blown away after all these years that she would act like that towards me and make those wild assumptions. Yeah, this is a classic case where people should really just mind their own business. Like, this aunt came out of nowhere and decided, yeah, you blew all your money on a trip to Hawaii. Why would you do that? You're such a terrible kid. Now you need to cancel it because I say so. Like, that is such a weird, grandiose assumption, and it's all so ill-informed. And also, the rest of your family is completely right. Your mom absolutely would have wanted you to go on this trip to Hawaii. She wouldn't have wanted you to like stop your trip and not go altogether. She would have been like, yes, please go and enjoy yourselves. So yeah, this entitled aunt was really just being very foolish because she made assumptions literally based off of nothing. Am I the jerk for not wanting to go to my brother's wedding? All because my wife wasn't invited. Because right now I feel very torn, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I am scheduled to go on a work trip, and it's in the country where my family lives. I've been talking with my family about my potential trip and said the initial plan was to be there for a week, but that may change due to my new job and projects that I have. I had a flight booked, but I recently found out a couple of weeks ago that the reason my family wanted me to come early is because my brother is getting married. It's a small thing and it has not been planned for months. It would have remained a secret if he didn't tell me, and the reason they didn't want me knowing is because my wife isn't invited due to family conflicts. His wedding is on a Saturday, and my plan was to fly in on the weekend before my work trip. Ultimately, my wife not being invited made me uneasy, and I haven't spoken to him about it yet, but now I have to postpone my trip a few days and leave during the week instead. Him and my wife haven't spoken in years, and the last interaction was not good, and with part of my family that was also the case. The issue now is that I most likely will not be able to make it, and I tried to be as upfront as possible in the beginning due to my new job and work commitments that this particular weekend may not work out. He did try to find some time when I would be there, but I said it wouldn't work out. I know he'll be disappointed, but I also don't want to go if my wife isn't invited, as I think it's highly disrespectful. I totally get that he wants me there, but steps could have been taken beforehand to try and help solve the family issues we have so that my wife at least was invited to it and not just me behind her back. It looks like I will have to miss it, but ultimately I think it's for the best. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, the way they're going about with this wedding kind of seems super sketchy in my opinion. Like, it really seems like they're trying to avoid your wife at all cost, and they're trying to do this behind her back almost on purpose. Like, who would say, oh yeah, we're getting married, but then not tell anybody about it? Like, wouldn't that be like a really joyous and like exciting moment in your life? Like, you would think they would want people to know so they could show up, or at least find like a good group of people that would be there for the wedding itself. So no, this seems super sketchy, and I would not go to this wedding either if I was in your shoes, because the way your family's treating your wife is honestly inappropriate, and I do not think that you should put up with that in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.